People deluded, I'm back again. Now, before I start, if you can hear a hissing sound, apologies. I've got my laptop in front of me, and I guess the CPU's being overclocked because I'm trying to edit some software. I'm processing something as well, and obviously, I'm using it, so there's a lot of processes being used. But in regards to what I'm here to speak about, we all saw Ian Wright's documentary, the two-part series in your own skin. Forgive me if the name of the title's wrong, but I must admit it was a great watch, and I take my hat off not only to Ian Wright for bringing this together, but to Troy Townsend, someone that I know personally as well. He's very much the person you saw on the TV. Does a lot for people, whether regardless of your skin color, where you're from. That man does a lot, and the rest of everybody involved, man, and past and present. And it was a hard hitting documentary. I mean, for obvious reasons, it's relevant to me. I think it's relevant to all of society, and it was hard. It was hard hitting. It showed how society. It showed me a lot. It showed me how society was. It showed me how some of these connotations and ideologies and ideas, especially with people that are old and they're actually still alive, are still prevalent today. And it also showed me how we've made some progress. Now, what I had an issue dealing with, the testament. Like I mean, I don't know, Viv Anderson. He wasn't in it, but Chris Hughton, Viv Anderson, the 3 Degrees, Cannavale, I hope I've said his name correctly, of Chelsea, and numerous more. I take my hats off to them, man, because I don't know how to put it into words, man. The way it made me feel, that the abuse that they had to deal with, and of course it affected them personally, and it made them feel some sort of way, and they wanted to react, but they couldn't react. They couldn't, because they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. And I take my hats off to them, because they're stronger men than I'll ever be. Because I know it's a time period, and again, it's probably easier now, as me as a black man, if I'm a footballer, for me to throw a punch at someone that's racially abusing me. It's probably easier to do now than then, because you got to look at it. Growing up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, specifically the 70s and 80s, I wasn't there, but I can comprehend how bad it was. I mean, you had connotations that were lazy, were ignorant, time wasters, show-offs, thugs, drug dealers, the weed smokers, and rest of drug paraphernalia, and all of these things. You obviously had the National Front and all of these abusive things. It's mad how society and football mirrors each other, and you could see it. Another bit that was hard hitting was the Stephen Lawrence. It happened around the time, a certain incident that happened around that time as well, and it's ridiculous to hear some of the language, to constantly hear how casual the words nigger and wog and all of these words were thrown about and ingrained in society. Of course, it's shocking reading this, but it's also more shocking that people think it's acceptable to use these terms. It was acceptable at that time on the basis that it was so conventionally used, that it was fine, but you get the point. And then obviously you've got Ron Atkinson calling, again, it wasn't in it, but when you consider Ron Atkinson calling Marcel Desailly a nigger, you've also got Mr. Ron Nodes. Forgive me if I've mispronounced his name. He's now dead, but his segment hit me as well. It said black players, he said, lent skill and flair, but he added you also need some white players in there to balance things up and give the team some brains and common sense. So you constantly hear throughout the whole thing that while we're good showboaters and we've got skill, tenacity, and ultimately source, we're not good leaders. We're unable to think for ourselves and for the team. We're somewhat lazy. We lack common sense. All of these things which weren't true. Like especially the fact that black players weren't seen as leaders and things like that. Something that I think, obviously, it's not as prevalent, but I still think to a degree it's still within the game. If I'm honest with you, and you can kind of see history, not in this regard, but history. A lot of things that were said in this documentary repeating itself. A lot of the connotations are still there. And things like that. These players had to suck it up. They had to suck it up, not because they wanted to, it's because they had no other choice. If they complained, who the hell is listening to them? If they react, they're already being labelled as lazy, ignorant, vicious, savage animals and things like that. Regardless, so you could say you might as well, because they're damned if you do. But if they did, they would have blocked the small blessings in terms of playing football they had. And there was one incident where, I mean, big up Gareth Southgate, off topic of this as well. A lot of people could learn a lot from his comments in the documentary. But Brian Clough, there was one bit that really got to me. Is that Brian Clough, Viv Anderson wanted to warm up, or was about to warm up, and he didn't, because obviously he didn't want to, because obviously bananas and the rest of it's being thrown. Brian Clough told him to go and fetch him some bananas and some fruit as well. And then after the game, he told him I've only done that so you basically don't let these racists win. And there's a couple of incidences. I can't remember the other name of the manager, God rest his soul, but there was another one that was going against it, saying I don't see black players, I see good players regardless. And then obviously when you're seeing Regis getting bullets delivered through his mail, you're obviously hearing John Barnes literally more or less saying, no, he didn't say he was scared, but kind of scared to play against Everton because of the racism. And it's crazy. It's crazy. And even heard that black season tickets of Liverpool wouldn't go to certain game. They wouldn't go to that sort of game. When you consider, of course, we've seen our first black manager in the 1993 and our first black captain of England in 93, and I'm born in 95, so this happened 2 years before me. I feel quite young. I'm 23 years of age. I didn't get as bad as the 80s, and the racial abuse I've suffered on a football pitch is actually, and in general, it's nothing compared to what these lot had to listen and deal with, man. Especially Carnival from his own fans, and he lost it once when a teammate was racially abusing him, and he then had to deck him and things like that. It's scary for me, the amount of, like, to hear patois and other Caribbean and African languages mocked in the documentary, and the way we talk mocked, to just some of the language. It really leaves a bad taste in your mouth, man. I really can't deal with it. And what shocks me, and what I've always said, and Ian Wright echoed it, is if you react to certain things, you're seen as a bad boy, chip on your shoulder, attitude problem. Some of these connotations you still see within football and society nowadays, because I've been told I've got a chip on my shoulder because I don't like certain bands before. Like, it's ridiculous, man. Like, what really hit me is that they were resigned to the fact that they had to take this. Like, this was the norm. Like, they had to just deal with it, essentially, man. And to be honest, that's maybe why maybe that's why generally black people in that sort of generation and above, and more late 80s, my generation, there's a kind of, what's the word? I don't even know the word, but think one guy in that way and one guy in this way in terms of attitude and attitudes in regards to racism. Because on one hand, the older lot, they had to suck up a lot. And on the other hand, you could say my generation are just above our babies, in the sense that you call me a nigga, I'm trying to knock off your face. I'm trying to crash you off, to be honest with you. Because racial abuse of anyone is ridiculous. I mean, I get it in my YouTube comments. I can put up with that. I promise you, don't matter how big someone is or how skilled they are in fighting. If someone says that to me in my face and it's within my power, I'm boning out. I'm sorry, I'm boning out. It don't matter if it's a 5-year-old kid or 80-year-old man, I'm boning out, card. Yeah, man. It's for me, it's just the acceptance. Like, these players would accept it because they knew if they spoke out, or when they spoke out, it's either going to be spoke of playing the race card, or they're speaking of them. It was just not going to be done. And like they're better men than me. Like, and the fact that there's only been one full-time black manager within the Premier League for all the players and stuff. This is everything I speak about. I've told you, lot, I dream. We see black players. These lot ran so I could walk. Future Chelsea fans even some that didn't watch the documentary can't comprehend what Carnival and the rest of them did for them, for the fact that it's a luxury, not just Chelsea, for a lot of fans, but just because Chelsea had Newcastle, Leeds, clearly there was a couple in it. Just to be a black man and sit in the Chelsea stadium and watch Chelsea play, man like this, you got to give your hat off to, because it would not be possible. We've still got a long way to go. You're seeing it now, down to my generation. These lot ran so I could walk, and obviously with the foreign influx, and as well as black British and others, it's happened. The likes of Henry and Cole and Vieira and Lauren, all of these great leaders, great men that I looked up to. I wouldn't know, maybe if these lot previous to them, if they didn't, Rio Ferdinand, Sol Campbell, maybe if the older lot didn't do this, then I wouldn't see it. And personally, I'm going off topic now, but I think the next case is, this is why I would love to be involved in talent ID and scouting and things away from my passion, is because you look at the footballers. I've just said however many footballers. You could list however many black footballers in the Premier League and abroad. You look for, even, I don't give a crap about refereeing, but you say refereeing, I can't tell you a black ref. You say black managers, I could tell you a handful, but it's almost like black managers, they're not allowed to fail. Yes, some managers that happen to be black are crap managers. That's going to happen. But the chance, it's like you have to be twice as good as a black manager to even get a chance. It's like you have to be Pep Guardiola, because there's a lot of bog standard other managers, but they're still getting a chance. But so the saying twice as good has been something that's always been said to me growing up, and to be honest, in the last 18 years I've fully understood it. But back to the point I'm getting at, You can list the players. I can't list a ref to you. I can barely list managers to you. I look at the physios and all of these other positions you see on a match day on the bench. How many of them are black? Or you can't even name them. Scouts. Like I just said, I love youth football and scouting and stuff. Joe Shields, formerly of Fulham, now of Manchester City, someone I look up to in the sense that I don't idolise no one, but he's ran the race I want to walk, essentially. He's done it all. He's someone I could learn off and things like that. No disrespect to him, because I love the guy, but he's not black. Mislintat, someone I love as well. He's not black. It's slightly going off topic, but you look at is it Monkey or something like Monchi, the Roma chief executive, or who's involved in transfer policies and things like that. He's not black. Obviously, you've got Les Ferdinand, who was in the documentary, but that's where I think we've got a long way to go, because in the same way young black managers or young black people in general, anyone can identify people on the TV, footballers. You can't say the same for managers and things like that. Now, I don't necessarily think not being able to see an image of yourself should discourage you, but it gives you hope. It really gives you hope. Like, it really gives you hope, man. Black captains as well. I don't need to think twice about black captains. I think we've still got a long way to go in that regards, but the very fact that black players weren't seen as leaders, as fighters and things like that, when they're literally fighting just to be on a football pitch, is ridiculous in my opinions. Like, it was a really good show, man, over these last 2 days, and I take my hat off to everybody involved. Also take my hat off to Gareth Southgate, because a lot of what he said, a lot of things people could learn a lot from what he said. And in regards to black managers and all of these things, it shouldn't be like this, but I don't think it's going to change until either black managers, black people, black businessmen own football clubs and employ black people, or you look at UEFA and all of these other things, unless widespread people of ethnic minorities, specifically to this, black, are involved in that, it's not going to change. Why haven't UEFA, why do you think UEFA keep giving penny loans, essentially? I call them, not penny loans, penny fines, a stadium closer to an under-18s game, which is already more or less closed, or £20,000 fine to a multi-million-pound football club. Why do you think they do things like this and penny fines and stuff like that? Because it doesn't, 9 times out of 10, the people in these positions, it doesn't affect them. They don't have personal statements or personal recollections of it. Of course, regardless of what skin colour or what country you're from or whatever, you face some sort of discrimination if you've lived a long life or enough life on this earth. But you get the point. Think about it. If you was a black man and you've been racially abused and whatnot, and you're in a position of power at UEFA, and someone, I don't know, let's just make an even better point, I don't know, someone of Indian descent's been racially abused on the football pitch, you immediately can identify, although you're not the same skin colour, you can immediately identify how it felt, how that person felt. So you're going to come cracking down on people talking nonsense and making things like this. That will fix it. I've sat at events by Kick It Out, and certain commentators have actually said there are reasons as to why black managers as well are unemployed, is because owners of football clubs simply don't have enough black managers or black people in their contact lists because they're not friends with them. I swear on my life, God strike me down if I'm lying, that is one thing that's been said. And there's also another debate to be had for black managers that get into these positions. And while it's understandable that they don't speak up and things for fear of losing their positions, them ones that don't speak up, they're part of the problem as well, because again, I get it, you need your job, you need to secure your bag, but if you are selfish in the sense that you think about yourself, you're not helping anybody. And there's certain managers that are out there doing that. Again, I've heard at events like this. So I don't think we've made a lot of progression as a society, we've made a lot of change, but again, in several videos I've told you lot, how much change have we really made? A lot of what you saw in that documentary about we want our Britain back, we don't want niggers in this, and we don't want this and we don't want that, you're seeing it in 2018. Of course, it's not that, it's not, I don't want to say it's not that bad, but it's certain things you could come out and say in widespread public, you can't come out and say. You have to say it in different ways. You're hearing people use things in Parliament like a nigger in a woodpile and mad things like that. We're living in a day and age where people who have dreadlocks and cane rolls and natural black hair are being kicked out of schools and discriminated against. And them certain hairstyles are still seen as unprofessional or untidy and things like that. Obviously, away from just what I'm focusing on here, the far-right movements, not just in England, but in several European nations, because of immigration, because of a lack of national identity, because of what it really is a class war, but it's been changed into a race war. You're seeing a lot of far-right. You look at Austria Obviously, Le Pen didn't win in France. Our very own country in England. You look at the likes of Katie Hopkins and Nigel Farage and Tommy Robson, who constantly chat shit and come out and stuff. You look at the people in my comments that talk stuff. So how much progress have we really made as a society? Like I said, a lot of people who in this documentary had these same views, they're still the ones owning football clubs and in positions of power. So it is what it is. We've got a long way, man. But I dream of a world, first and foremost, where the right man, regardless of their skin colour, or woman, regardless of their gender, gets the job because they're levels, not of their skin colour. But we need to raise awareness. I dream of a world like that. I dream of a world where this isn't a conversation. I dream of a world where a young black kid living in North London, like myself, he was quite average at everything in school, can look towards something. If it's not a footballer, you can look to the bench and see a scout or talent ID or director of football and whatnot. So it's widespread, so you don't think about it. So you don't just look at the token Ualuma or Les Ferdinand or once upon a time Seedorf at some club. I'm sure I could be wrong. You don't look at these. You look at, there's so many that you believe that you can be there. Because let's be honest, and to my fellow black people looking out there, I know you've had this conversation, whether it's with your parents, whether it's with your child, whether it's with your friends, being twice as good, sometimes even 3 times as good. You have to be, because if I'm honest, we're playing by different rules. I've learned that from a young age. I've learned that I won't get the same sympathy some will get. I won't get the same lessons some will get. I'll have to learn harsher lessons quickly and get no sympathy. I have to be twice as good. And I use that with Deluded. I have to be twice as good. My videos have to be twice as good. I have to make sure I know what I'm talking about. I have to do twice the amount of legwork and research to get to somewhere. Because, of course, it's not always skin colour, but they like, it is prevalent. And what scared me is the unconscious bias that goes within football as well. Some, including myself, are guilty of. I mean, even if we look at black goalkeepers, how many black goalkeepers? Again, it's completely irrelevant. It don't really make sense. But how many black goalkeepers? I say this is because even me, to a degree, when you look at a black keeper, you think to a degree, is he really levels? Why is he in goal? Is he a goalie? You don't see too many of them. Some people question the concentration levels, and that quite annoys me as well. But whether it's black goalies, I don't know, black goalies, captains, referees and all other positions, we've made a lot of progress. Let's not act like there's only one black man out there that's ever been captain, but we've come a long way. We've come a long way. Look at that again. I wasn't there at Chelsea, but Chelsea have come a long way. They've gone from calling their Roma Gollywog and all of these things to they hold people like Jogba in high regard. Definitely, I'd like to think Ashley Cole's held in higher regard at Chelsea than he is at Arsenal now. You got Essien, once upon a time Makelele. Everybody loves Kante, and we're going into dangerous territory now where people want, like you're seeing with Sterling, Pogba, and a lot of people. It's like, if you're not behaving like Kante, they don't want you to speak. It's like you're not allowed to spend your money. You're not allowed to enjoy your riches of being a footballer. So there's a lot of progress to be made. We've made a lot of progress, but now it's even scarier, because now the sort of unconscious bias is back. It's the back door, and that's scary. It's whispers. It's not directly to you. There was that before, and there was in your face. I'd prefer in your face racism than the bias subconscious stuff. But that's me personally, innit, people. But in short, credit to Ian Wright, credit to Rhian Brewster, Raheem Sterling, Viv Anderson, Paul Ince, the 3 Degrees, everyone that was involved in not only just the speaking and offering their experiences, but the production and all of them. And like I said, for me as well, big up Gareth Southgate as well, man. So yeah, big up to the players that were standing up for their teammates as well, because there was a lot of that going down. But it is what it is, man. I mean, testament to you lot, man. John Barnes, the rest of you lot, I can't put into words the amount of courage and the level of, I can't put into words what you lot have done, and how it, not only did it made me feel, it really, yeah, man, like, I'd take my hat off to you. I'm really lost for words, people. I take my hat off to you lot, because I couldn't accept it. I would not be able to accept it. I would not be able to be a footballer. I mean, I'm not a footballer now, so clearly I lack ability, but you get the point, people. On that note, there's not much more for me to say, people. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, it should be on ITV, iPlayer, whatever they call it now. Good watch, man. Good watch. And yeah, very hard hitting. It would have. The only criticism I can personally have is that this, possibly with it, I don't believe in Black History Month per se, but with it being Black History Month in October, maybe a trick was potentially missed. But I don't know in regards to the production and all of these things that went behind the scenes to getting that on TV. So is what it is, man. It's just, for me, the on-screen acceptable racism, like, it's mad. Like, it's mad. And it's like players will resign to it. It's like, it's gonna happen. That was it, essentially. But I've got nothing more to say, man. I'm going a bit negative now. So, yeah, let's keep it upbeat. So, yeah, people, deluded, man. Go and check it out, man. Get in the comments, subscribe, and do the rest if you wish. Bang.